Lars Erik Holte studied acting at the Teaterhøgskolen, the Academy of Theatre, this school, in Oslo in the beginning of 90s. At the end of the same decade, he studied directing at the school. During his acting education, Lars Erik was influenced by a highly eclectic school with many different pedagogical strategies. When he started the directing studies, the school had now changed and adopted an orthodox Russian Stanislavski approach in the tradition of Torsten Norgård, for the ones that knows about him. I think these two elements can describe somehow parts of Lars Erik's work, both as a pedagogue and an artist. He's trained in and aware of the benefit of having a specific method, but he also knows there are different ways to train acting skills and have a big awareness about that. Since early 2000, Lars Erik has worked as a professor at the Academy of Theatre. Now he has the overall pedagogical responsibility for the education connected to text work for actors, for acting students. Last year he was the editor and the main writer of a book called Skuespillerens arbeid med tekst, this book, The Actor's Work with Text. And it consists of 5 articles. We also have it here for sale for the ones that is interested. Welcome, Lars Erik Holte. Lars Erik, do you think about yourself as an actor that is a director or a director that is an actor?
Well, obviously all parts are going to work together somehow. I guess working with the script alone as a director also involves the actor, because when you analyze all the situations, you start to live the situations and play the situations by yourself. It's really, really boring because you don't have somebody to play with. And sometimes when you work with the actors on the floor, at the floor, on the floor, at the floor. That's my. I'm a nerd about language, so. Then sometimes the actor in me has to try to understand what's going on and try to understand my own direction, and then I probably will. Sometimes I will, be with the actor and follow the actor on stage and try to experience what was it that I actually asked for. And very often I discover that I was wrong. I'm sorry. Now I understand. Now when I'm here with you, I understand with your point of view. And then, of course, in all the preparations and working with the scenographer and the costume designer and all that work, that's the director. So there's a huge. It melts together. But I don't think they work at the same time. So sometimes the actor works and sometimes the director works, and then they tell each other about what they've done.
So it's a shift of perspective and strategy somehow.
Yes.
Which is important for your work as a director, then, I assume.
Yes, it's very important because I'm, as a director or as a spectator, I'm more interested in the small room with the actors. I'm more interested in talking with the actors and exchanging meanings and finding out what is really going on here than big scenarios or yeah, all the other elements in the theater are kind of less important for me than this dialogue between people. And I mean, that's the reason that many people have that point of view, I guess. But the actor is, I certainly find pleasure in having that acting background because it's easier to talk with the actors then.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it is Brecht that said that he look upon himself as a playwright that had become a director, and he says that Stanislavski is really a actor
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
becomes a director.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can relate to that.
Yeah, I can understand. Of course, I can understand the being an actor and then being a director a lot better than being a writer and then being than being a director because I'm not a playwright and I have been co-writing plays together with actors, but I've never made a manuscript by myself and put it in somebody else's hands. So I actually really I don't know what that is like, but I think it must be very terrifying.
We're going to come back to that, but before that, I would like to talk a bit about text work, since also this is very important for this festival, obviously. A different form of thinking and talking and working with text and characters and so on. What is the basis of the text work for you?
The basis, the start was, of course, grounded in my education, which is a classical education, and when I was doing my actors training, I quickly understood that I'm interested in this. This is fun, and especially this pedagogue Morten Rørt, he kind of managed to. There's a kind of a click in the brain that happens, or happened to me at least. I think maybe it happens to others too, but it was so clear to me that it happened. And then this whole world just opened up, and suddenly you could see all the ways that you can work with text, and also how to discover all the literal tools that a writer uses, because it was I didn't know how to discover those tools. Virkemidler, hva er det for noe?
Effects or
Effects. Yeah, okay, everybody. Strategies. Yeah. What kind of literal strategies are used? And I didn't know how to discover that. And then suddenly, it was like almost a moment that this pedagogue made me realize and understand that just think in a little bit different way. And then it all opened up. And I think that is very, very, very important for an actor. Even today, when we work with there are so many ways to approach a text today. But I still think that the being able to use what the playwright suggests is important, and you might be aware of what the playwright suggests, but you might not have the skill to express it. So I think it's very important that the classical sense of meaning. What does this text mean? What do you want? Why are you saying these words? Why are you saying them to this person? Why you say them right now? And I think that we will never get rid of the fact that playwrights will write text with some meaning, and if you don't want. If you want to treat the text differently, you can do that, but there'll still be a meaning there.
An intended meaning
from the playwright. Yeah.
Playwright.
So there will still be something there. And then the actor has to be very aware of what kind of meaning comes out. So some actors are aware of that, and it comes out like that. But some actors are not aware, and some actors they talk strange. Talk strangely on the scene. It's almost incomprehensible. You can't understand what they're saying, and you don't understand why. Why don't I understand what this guy is saying? For example, I heard this line once. My students have heard this before, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And I have to say this in Norwegian because it's a language-based point. So this actor says, "Kan jeg forlate en som i så mange år har elsket meg?" What does that mean? Because this guy emphasizes, he chose to emphasize some words in that sentence. Kan jeg forlate en som i så mange år har elsket meg? I motsetning til om du kan forlate tre som i så mange år har elsket deg? Is that what you're trying to tell us? And the actor comes in the wardrobe afterwards and asks me, so what do you think? And I said, yeah, it's great. This actor is brilliant, a lot of energy, and lives on stage. And then I said that sometimes I don't understand what you're saying. And then he said, do you have an example? Yeah, and I gave him this example. I understand. It's because my character talks like that. Okay, so the actor chooses a character who doesn't know how to talk. And then nobody's going to understand what that character is doing on stage, and we're all going to fall asleep. It's very strange. So this character has the disease. There are different diseases. This character has the disease of the wish of being original or doing something new with the text. I'm going to do something new about this text. And then loses the meaning on its way. And then there are, of course, the pronoun, personal pronoun disease. I don't know if it exists in any other country. I haven't heard it in any other country, in any other language. It's very strange, but it does exist here in Norway. And that's the fact that a lot of actors emphasize the word I, especially I, but also you, and they, we, pronouns. And I discussed this with many. We haven't done a survey and we haven't done research on that, but I've talked to many people about it and asked them, what do you think is what is the reason? What on earth is the reason that you suddenly do that? When you see some words on a piece of paper, you suddenly start to emphasize I. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So you want to tell us that you're hungry and not him, or do you want to tell us that you're hungry? So this is a disease, and maybe it started with I. I think maybe it started with I, because maybe the actor feels more present. Maybe he or she feels his integrity growing by saying the word I. Then you should kind of feel that you're on stage when you say I.
So
I don't know.
The presence seems to be more important than what you're doing on stage, or what you're thinking.
I don't know. This is just some thoughts that I made together with other people. I don't know if it's true, but it would be interesting to do a research on that subject. Why do Norwegian actors emphasize I? That would be interesting.
I think this also illustrates maybe maybe one of the basic building blocks of your pedagogic, because now we're talking about what to emphasize in the text, what is the main word, and how where is the how to work with the sentence on
Yeah.
that level,
Mm.
sort of. Correct?
Yes.
So-
So the method is actually very much discussed. Not everybody is happy about
Mhm.
this, but we use the term main word. So you have to find out what is the main word in this sentence, and there are different ways of finding those main words. For example, you have to know what is the situation and what you want to express and what is the meaning. Um, and you can also look at opposites, because if you say hot, the audience is going to think about cold. If you say black, the audience is going to think about white. The opposite of what you're saying is going to ring a bell in the audience. These two people are nodding. I'm very happy that you also have that feeling, because it's very important to know that, both as a playwright and an actor, that what you're not saying is almost as important as what you're saying. Like, for example, take a sentence, I'm so hungry, I think I'm going to go to the shop and buy some food. So the main words are easily found in this because there are no opposites. This is just very easy to find out, and especially if you think about being a caveman. Let's say you're a caveman and you want to express that. What would that be? Which words would the caveman use? Any suggestions? I'm so hungry, I think I'm going to have to go to the shop and buy some food.
Hungry food.
Yeah, it's that simple. Hungry, food. So the caveman technique is pretty funny. We can learn a lot from the caveman, from that language. And then, of course, it's the opposites. You have to look at. I can't say. Should I make an example of that too? When you look at things that are juxtapositioned, as Paul Castaño. So that's a beautiful word. I didn't know that word existed. The sammenstille, juxtaposition. Listen to that, huh? It's just a great word. I think we're going to juxtaposition these, like Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing. She says something like en mann, den som har skjegg, mer enn en yngling, og den som ikke har skjegg, mindre enn en mann. Så her har vi helt klart noen motsetninger. Altså den ene snakker hun om, og den andre snakker om. Så den som har skjegg, skjegg må vel fram. Vi kunne kanskje sagt den som har skjegg, og den som ikke har skjegg. Vi har jobbet et halvt år når vi var i første klasse med akkurat den setningen der. Og nerda rundt denne setningen. Så det er helt klart at har skjegg og ikke har skjegg er motsetninger. Og yngling og mann er motsetninger. Og da blir man på en måte nødt til å fremheve det. Men av og til kan også, sometimes there can also be sentences that are very, very long, which has a lot of opposites in them, and then you have to choose. Otherwise, it's going to be a line full of main words. And we don't want to hear those main words. So to get rid of that, the main words, first you find the main words, and then we find the arc of the thought. So what is the thought here? Where does the thought start and where does it end? And then the arc of the thought will grain down the main words so that you can't hear them. You're not supposed to hear main words. That's not interesting. Well, maybe that could be interesting if that is the point. if that is because you can do anything with text. I mean, you could use it as a picture. You can have a picture on behind you with the text. The audience reading the text, and you're not talking the text. Or you could use it as rhythm, or music, or like a talerkor. Or you could take a piece of paper with text on it and rub it on your body, or you could fold it and send it to the audience, and then they could read it themselves. That's also the actor's work with the text. Or you could use. So this first thing that I've been talking about now, there's a list in that book of elements that I use and try to define. But I don't think we're going to go through all that list. The most important thing is that you find that meaning, maybe through the caveman technique or through opposites, and then you find that thought.
I think we made an image of like the beginning of this training,
Yeah.
and the idea of how we search for expressing meaning with the text and find the meaning. Why should we work with even more complex forms like Shakespeare and Jambe and other regular metrical forms when nobody really speaks this? Because now you're talking about trying to make a way that we actually do speak.
Well,
so what is the reason why we also have this in the basic training?
I think that's a really good question, because not only because we don't speak like that, but also because we see directors now, young directors that finish their directors training, or even people, directors here in this school, working with Shakespeare, and they remove words or add words, and they pay absolutely no attention to the verse, the metric system. And I think also Richard III, Richard III at National Theatre, they also did this. They kind of, this is not, we're not using that. We're just using it as prose. So, and that makes you ask the question, well, will we ever hear Shakespeare again like it was? Because I think it's a loss. But of course, these two ways of working with Shakespeare can coexist.
Do we need to train Shakespeare in order to do more than Shakespeare? Is it just because we?
No, yeah. So if we train our actors here to do Shakespeare, because in Shakespeare text, in a Shakespeare text, there are so many. What did you call it again? Not tools, but strategies. He has so many strategies, and everything I can think of is almost everything I can think of is in Shakespeare. So that's why we use Shakespeare to train our students. So if you have reached the level of knowledge and skill to actually make sense of a Shakespeare text, especially blank verse, I think you could do anything after that. Anything else will be not easy, because you start over and over again. Every time you see a new text, there's a new kind of work. But if you have that skill to decode a Shakespeare text, I think you could do almost anything. That's why Shakespeare is so important to us. We have different traditions in England and Norway. The English or the British are highly influenced by the fact that they had this writer 450 years ago, or 20 or what, and it required a lot of skill to be able to speak the words. So the English have a very technical approach to an actor has a technical approach to his lines. While in Norway we are more influenced by Ibsen and the realism and the thought and what goes on in here, and we haven't paid that much attention to the technique of speaking, the skill of speaking.
Because Shakespeare is very quite often done quite slow in slow pace in Norway.
Oh yeah, it's so boring.
And if we, I mean, I think we know quite well that Shakespeare was originally done quite fast because I think we know the length of the play, how long it took to play it. I think we have some archaeological material that tells us that it was played this, and then
Yeah.
we can calculate. Oh, then they really must have had a huge pace.
Yeah.
So
They didn't have a director that was wanted to give his signature by putting everything, a lot of stuff in between the scenes. Maybe they just went on.
yeah, yeah. Do you work also with the blank version Shakespeare in a
Yes.
in a huge pace?
You can also work with in the school. Our department also teaches how to use language, voice, speed, på norsk og engelsk. Hjelp meg. Yes, rhythm. Thank you. Energy. So you could speak you could speak with a high volume or a low volume, or you could speak fast or slow. And after trying to find out what on earth is this text about, and you think, oh yeah, maybe I found something here, but you still think there's something wrong about the way I do this, the way I speak the text. There's something missing. I don't know what it is. Then try to slam yourself into the wall, not knowing why, and then discovering why you did it afterwards. So you could try to speak very fast, or fast first and then slowly. Maybe fast and loud, and slowly and not loud. Or you could give some very, very strong energy to it, not knowing why. I mean, I don't have a high inner rhythm right now, but I could try and just remember what it's like to have a high inner rhythm. And I don't know why I'm doing it, but it certainly has an effect on my text. So you could just apply some tools on the text or on yourself as an actor, and then you will discover ways of using the text that you can never discover by thinking in logic and consequence.
And this is another way to think our work than what you started to talk in the beginning.
Yes, very different.
It's like
Very
you
different.
just put something physical or just like you make a choice. Could you make some other examples? Could you make some other examples with some Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Just
Well, I can do
just
that.
something which is like contrary to the text.
I mean, which actor wants to go on stage and say to be or not to be? That is a problem. Because everybody's done it. Everybody knows it. It's so maybe you can try and do something. You want to do it? Please come. Yeah.
You want to do it? You want to do it?
You know?
No, I don't.
You know it? Okay.
I'm sure maybe somebody wants.
No, like you could say it in you can try to use the metric system.
Yeah.
Å være eller ikke være det spørsmålet, for hva edelferd? Å tåle dette regn av sten og piler en bitter skjebne sender mot oss, eller å trekke sverdet mot et hav av sorger og gjøre slutt på dem. Altså, you get a little bit more declamatoric style. Or you could just treat it as prose, å være eller ikke være, det spørsmålet. For hva edelferd? Å tåle dette regn av sten og piler en bitter skjebne sender mot oss, eller å trekke sverdet mot et hav av sorger og gjøre slutt på dem og dø. I remember I did this to Sigmund Sæverud, which is my teacher, and I said, well, that was a little bit too fast, Lars Erik. Well, maybe we could do it even more fast. Å være eller ikke være, det spørsmålet. For hva edelferd? Å tåle dette regn av sten og piler en bitter skjebne sender mot oss, eller å trekke sverdet mot et hav av sorger og gjøre slutt på dem og dø. You might not get the words, but you will get something else. So you could go on like this and just try different uh, techniques, pure techniques. You don't have to know why. I usually call that work for uforpliktende. It's not that you're going to do this. Maybe you can do it even when you do the performance, but that's not the point. The point is to find some other way, something. Maybe something is missing. Maybe you're not comfortable with what you're doing, and then there are a lot of strategies to break up that feeling of being lost.
Is it a challenge for actors to disconnect the character and psychology from the text work, to do what you say, because it's obviously can be effective to explore the text. How can we do this, to explore the text by not forcing the purely psychological ways?
I think that it's important for us as a school to teach both this the classical way of using text and also this other way of using text. So the openness is very important, because obviously you're going to have to do both when you get out there. You're probably going to end up doing something that you have to express some meaning, that you have some target, that you have some obstacles, that you have some realism, and then you're also going to meet the other stuff. Maybe I don't think it's a big problem, but a bit of a problem, because I worked with an actor once, and I asked the actor, so you're going to play the judge in this scene, and I want you to have no process. You're just going to say the words very loudly. And that was the only way that this scene could work, if the judge didn't have a process. And the actor continuously started to relate to the actor, the prosecutor, and the defender, and the tiltalte. So I had to remind the actor, please, you don't have to have that process. Okay, yeah. So the actor just forgot sometimes, and then went into a process. But it wasn't that a big a problem. But it was an example of how we, this actor, I taught this actor 18 years ago, and I insisted, you have to live this moment. You have to have a process. You have to understand what's going on there. You have to listen and then react. It's not acting, it's reacting. Look at it. Everything you do because of your partner. And then it all just had a backfire right into my face there.
It seems like theatrical skills are getting more wanted, maybe, in the field of theater. I mean,
I certainly hope so.
There's a reason why we still educate the actors.
Huh?
There's a reason why we still have an education for actors.
Yeah. So of course you can have. There are many different ways of making theater, in which you don't need a skilled actor. Sometimes maybe it's great not to have a skilled actor, because the skilled actor will, at least the skilled actors from this school, will ask you so many questions you want to kick the guy out. Whereas
why am I doing this?
Yeah, and no, just do it. Yeah. So I've had actors coming to me and saying, "Well, I asked him a question, and the director said just do it." And then, yeah, of course. Why didn't you do it then? Just do it. Well, it's not born.
But
it's not born within me.
But
then I can't do it.
But Lars Erik, if we're gonna be a little bit self-critical and honest there,
yes,
there is a lot of actors that has gone to this school, and they do tend to ask these questions.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why do they? They are a bit difficult in that way. They need somebody to give them an explanation why they have to do these things.
Well, it probably has to do with the way we teach acting, and that we are using this classical way. You need to have a backstory. You need to do some research. If you're going to do a character, you have to understand. You have to drive a taxi for 2 years to be a taxi driver. We're not that. We're not on that level, but it's constantly rammed into them that you have to understand what you're doing. So I think maybe it's better to ask those questions and then than being in a production where you should ask the questions and not have the skill, not have the knowledge of how to understand your part.
Mm.
But of course, I mean,
Can it also be some sort of fear that drives the actor to ask these questions? It's maybe a dangerous thing to.
fear of lack of awareness of everything that you're doing. But I think also it's also if the director wants some realistic scene, then it's adequate to ask all those questions. If you want something else, then maybe we should try and find out what kind of questions do you ask then. Maybe we should bring a lot more of that into our school. Yeah.
How do you work with classics yourself when you direct?
Oh, classics.
I mean, it's a very open question.
I
but
love
like,
Shakespeare, and when I do Shakespeare, I often play with him. I think he's very humorous. I like humor, and humor is often a very strong part of my work. And then, as we talked about yesterday, I did Hedda Gabler at the Teater Innlandet, and that was very surprising for me that I did Hedda Gabler because I really hated it. I mean, Ibsen, how annoying isn't he? He's just such an annoying person. He's so perfect. You can't nail him on anything, and then of course it's been played so boring for 150 years. Not that long, but so I'm a bit afraid of some classics, and then I embrace other classics, and how to work with it. A lot of directors have some signature. You can always see that this is an Ostermeyer performance, or this is a Io Miento. Okay, but I don't think. I think maybe my signature is that you don't know who did it. Who the hell did this
No,
performance?
I actually don't agree. But
That's very interesting.
yeah.
Tell me about that. What?
No, it's always. I think I think that the director is always in the center of your work. Even when there is a conceptual framing or an important scenography, it still looks like the initial idea is how the actor are dealing with each other, always. And the way they are doing this is always through. There is always a listening element here. I think, for instance, I could go on, but I think there are things with the way you work with actors and the way you're dealing with the relationship of the actors, which are basic starting point.
But can you see that in the performance?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I found my signature today.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely. No, I think so. Yeah. Also, when you work with very blocked plays, or you work with improvised things, or you devise things, I think it's still a very clear. I think the way Okay, no, I'm not gonna start because I think the way directors deal with people, like basically what are their attachment pattern, is actually kind of staged very often. When they put actors on stage and they start to make the directors deal with each other, you can see the director's attachment pattern, I think. So if you want to psychoanalyze a director, you can just look how the actors deal with each other. I have the feeling.
Yeah,
It
it's
mirrors
very
something. It mirrors something.
Yeah.
Do they deal with each other? How do they deal?
Yeah.
Or if when they don't deal with each other, how do they don't deal, and so on.
Yeah.
Of course, it's also the actors' choices are in there. But when you start to see many plays of a director, you can kind of decipher a sort of way approach to the world. I have the feeling, especially with directors with a clear project somehow. But I'm not gonna continue to analyze you. But it's
Very interesting.
but it's in your background as a trained director also from a very like classical Stanislavski tradition. You still also have experiences with device processes
Yes.
where you more or less are a team on the same level as the actors, and you throw in ideas and you create something together, and you allow. I mean, you have a reputation when you do these processes for really allowing whatever it comes in to be on the stage. So can you say something about that with your background, then entering the device processes and allowing the proposals to just come into the room and allowing them to be there? Is that how do you, is it fun for you, or has it been challenging, or has it changed your perspective on acting and staging and directing, or could you say something about that?
We talked a little bit yesterday about when the actor becomes the director, and then I mean the director, the co-director, and like Tommy, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Like he said, the actors are going to come up with something that you could never think about as a director. So I always put my trust in that. Of course, I always have some suggestion. In case nothing happens, then I have a suggestion. But letting the actors improvise freely will create something that they couldn't think about it because it just happens there and then. It's the only way to find that moment is two actors improvising. I can't write it. I can't analyze my way to it. It's just something magic. Maybe that's art between actors. So what I would say my experience is what you gain is actors that really own the performance, and every word spoken is coming. They speak with integrity and understanding, and a deep understanding of what they're actually saying. And they also love to play it when they made it themselves. You have actually we've been doing the same thing, almost the same thing at Torshov Teatret, because I did Nils Klim and you did Ufo-bygda, and so the difference I think in these two productions is that we didn't have a writer. We just had actors and me, and we wrote down what the actors said, while Øystein is a writer, so he can foredle, purify the text and maybe change what is said. Some actor says something, then you will change it into something more, maybe more interesting then, because you don't get high poetry or very intellectual reflections through working with improvisations with the actors. You will get a pretty simple language, I think. Maybe I didn't work with the right actors, but But
Maybe it also depends on what you focus on in the process.
yeah, maybe. Mm.
I mean, probably you had the more space and acting oriented period.
Yeah.
Well, I just maybe had a more idea and oriented.
Mm.
I don't know. This can be differences.
Yeah, but and I think the two performances also have kind of the same. You can see the same joy with the actors in both performances because they have been creating it themselves. I think.
Ownership.
Yeah, ownership. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I hope so. I think we need to start to end this conversation, but I would really like to take some questions first. Yes.
When you're working with new playwriting strategies, and you will have sometimes you will have characters that doesn't have a backstory, and you will have characters that you can't answer those questions. How am I supposed to feel? What is my role? And have you tried to work like that? And how is it in your opinion with actors that's coming from this tradition where you're supposed to have all this kind of process to put them in this situation with new playwriting?
My experience is that the more humor an actor has, the less question.
Really? Really?
Because people that understand humor are used to looking at the world in a different way. So I think that we can't say that all the actors that come out from this school are difficult actors that ask questions all the time.
Depends if they have
It
humor or
depends on
not.
who they are, I mean, I worked with actors that are. We did a couple of performances. We went Bartek Kaminski and Jan Martin Johnsen and Espen Reboli Bjerke. We went to Oslo Nye and we said we want to make something that is just fun. It's not going to say anything. It's not going. It doesn't have a message or anything. And she said, okay, you can make a performance. Here's 8 weeks. Here's the room. What are you going to do? Well, we don't know that yet. But we're thinking about maybe doing 2 plays at the same amount of time. So and that would give us a little bit. So we made 2 performances, and these guys, they would do anything. And they're trained here, but they'll do anything you tell them because they understand the humor about it. For example, Bartek, he once said, I said to him, "You're hurt now, and let's make this a little bit more like an epos." How am I going to do that? Well, you just don't look at your partner. Just turn your head that way and look at the lights over there, and then you say the lines looking at that light. And he immediately understood what the humor in that was, and no questions asked. So I think maybe humor is, humor also gives you a little bit self-irony. If you're full of humor, you can also look at yourself and not be very important person. Okay.
Tommy?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I have a comment because you were wondering about these pronounces. It's an interesting information that in Norway, in Norwegian, you have this thing. Actually, there is a huge research in this, I can just give you a few things.
Oh, yes.
From this research, yes. And one is that they researched on pronounces and on functional words in language, and they are connected to social links. And when they researched suicidal poets, they find out that actually it's not that they use more negative emotion expression or anything like that, but they use more the word I. So this is connected
Suicidal poets.
to suicidal poets. So it's connected to depression.
Wow.
This is one thing. Then it is connected to the telling the truth. When you are telling the truth, you are using more the word I. And the third thing is connected also to the status. When you have lower status, you are using. When you are not in position of power, you are using more the word I. This is just connected to word I, but it's also there are interesting things about the use of pronounces. Just to So
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to talking more. Yes, thank you.
It's very interesting to hear this. What you were saying.
We can talk about this in the debate.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions or comments or ideas, or somebody want to share something? Or Talle?
I just want to say I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Lars Erik, and it was entertaining and very practical.
That was my object for today, to be entertaining. And nobody will criticize what you say if you're entertaining. No, sorry. Thank you very much.